Hello and welcome back to Dilkash the Talk. The guest we have today is a 21-year-old guy who has accomplished too much for his age way too early. He is a journalist and a filmmaker and an emerging talent in the industry. So let's ask him कि उनका experience अब तक कैसा रहा and how he's been doing so far in the industry. Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
That
you.
was a lovely introduction.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. So, Sarym, tell us a bit about yourself and how it all began and how has your experience been so far?
It has been, it's difficult to put it into words what the experience has been. 2023 marks 10 years of me being somewhat associated with the industry. I started writing journalistically when I was 11. I had watched a movie called War, jo us time pe aayi thi, Bilal Lashari ki. And I was just amazed by the fact that Pakistan could create cinema, because I hadn't watched Pakistani cinema before that. I grew up on a lot of Disney and Bollywood. So there was always fascination for cinema, but when I watched War, I somehow wanted to interview the cast. And so I interviewed Shan and Hamza Basi. I would reach out to them on Facebook, and I had like a Facebook blog, because Instagram even wasn't a thing back then. This is 2013. So after that, I wrote for a bunch of publications, newspapers, and in 2020, I made a plunge into filmmaking. So I started writing and directing fiction. So yeah, it's been a lovely journey.
So what inspired you basically? What was the click? होता है ना एक आपको एक switch आता है कि कुछ आपने देखा ना, like I want to be there and I want to cover it. I want to be in this industry. What was your motivation or inspiration behind it?
So like I said, it was War. I watched the film in Islamabad with my dad. He was invited to the premiere of the film. And I went there and I watched it, and I walked out of the cinema hall and I saw all the actors there. And I was just starstruck, you know what I mean? I knew that this was an industry made of dreams, and it's something that I really want to be a part of, to leave my mark, to leave an impact. I knew that I had stories to tell. And, at a young age, I didn't know kahan jayega wo at that point, of course. But yeah, I think it was probably watching War, and where the entire Keeda came from, I'd say, is probably the earliest memory of cinema I have is Aaja Nachle, which was a movie that Madhuri did, and I was just I would come back from school every day and watch that film. So I've watched it a couple of 100 times at this point. And I discovered it when I was 5. I just know that I fell in love with just the performing arts. So yeah, I've known it for as long as I can remember.
And your experience in the industry, being, you're too young. I see a lot of young people in the industry, but then getting in the industry is a hassle in itself. So how was that experience?
So I don't really have an industry background, contrary to what people think. My dad's a businessman. My mom's an event planner. I think it's tough. It's definitely tough to break in, to meet people. It's a lot of luck that comes into play. It's a lot of hard work. I think how I probably did it was by being incredibly persistent. A lot of people thought I was very annoying also, because I would just keep at it. As a child, when I started journalism and when I was interviewing all these actors, I would keep texting them. I would keep trying to get in touch with their managers or them, and every interview for me at that point was an accomplishment. So when I interviewed Mahira Khan, I knew that this was a huge accomplishment, for me at the time. And so, every step you take is you coming closer to, what you've aspired for and what you've dreamt of. The only, I think, hack that there's no hack to it, but I think the only thing you can really do is not give up, because it does pay off. And I think in the times that we live in with social media, you can literally make your account public, start posting, start reaching out to people, even if it sounds dumb. I talk to a lot of people who say that it's really dumb to be messaging people that are verified accounts, or,
I did that too.
Yeah, that have a lot of followers, because, you won't get noticed. But what are the odds? You know what I mean? You really have to take that chance.
I remember messaging this one actor-director. He's really famous for his work. I wouldn't want to obviously name him, but I was very surprised when he actually got back, and I was like, oh wow, fan moment.
Yeah, I messaged Humayun Saeed on Facebook with a questionnaire. मैंने उनको 5 सवाल भेजे. मैंने कहा बस I'm going to take my chance, and if he replies to these 5 questions, I'll have an interview, And he did. He randomly opened his Facebook. Imagine, request में उन्होंने देखा कि किसी बच्चे ने भेजे में सवाल. He typed down the answers. He sent them to me, and then he became such a huge support for me. He introduced me to a lot of other people in the industry. He helped me interview a lot of other people that I wanted to.
How old were you back then when you did it?
This was about like 12, 13. Like this was a while ago. I'm telling you, the Facebook relevant होता था, अब तो नहीं है.
अब
But
नहीं
like,
है, हाँ.
but yeah,
अब Instagram is the game.
Facebook was Instagram. Instagram wasn't a thing. Like मैं इतना पुराना हूँ. but you know that was that's how it happens. You know, like आज मैं ये at 21 I go to film school and I'm in a batch of approximately 40 kids that all want to either act or direct or write or you know somehow be a part of the film fraternity. And it's stupid to think about the fact that you are going to message a really big star and they're going to get back to you, because the odds are that they might not. But you know, like that's why I say that it's luck, it's hard work, and somehow it does work out for you when you know that your heart's in the right place.
Yeah, because or actually the thing that you said earlier is not to give up. Actually,
Yeah, actually.
मतलब अच्छा, if you message 10 people and 8 don't reply, maybe 2 will.
I just think you message 10 people and you don't hear back from them for a month does not mean that you determine what the rest of your life is going to look at. And other people aren't entirely, I think it's also really important to understand that other people are not going to dictate what your career trajectory is going to look like. So if someone doesn't get back to you, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't go out and make that film. You know, everything I've done up until now has been independent. So I've gone out, I've held a camera and I've done it, and I've received a lot of backlash for it as well. But the only key is to just get up and do what you want to do, you know, regardless of whatever little resources you have. You just have to do it.
Okay, let's come down to a bit of a serious side.
Yes.
So in the Pakistani society, there are many gender restrictions.
Yes.
And it's for both. I feel like for women and for men, it's very, you know, hard to convince their parents to be in the film or fashion industry, because there's this perception about film and fashion industry. So how was it for you when you told your parents that you want to be in this filmmaking and fashion and all that?
A lot of my extended family disapproved. I know my grandparents were a little iffy. They would speak to my parents about you know, like their apprehension about how it's unsafe, about how I'm too young to be doing this at the time. But my dad really stood by me. So I think, alhamdulillah, like it's really important for you to have a parent that supports you and a parent that's right behind you, like, you know, rooting you and becomes your pillar, right? So when I would go out to interview all of these people, my dad would be there with me, you know. My dad has been on set with me. So alhamdulillah, I think I was fortunate enough to have supportive parents. I know कि ऐसा नहीं होता. We live in a society where it is looked down upon, it's frowned upon. But I guess it's like, alhamdulillah, in my case, it wasn't that.
And what is your biggest accomplishment that you feel so far?
I think it's hard to say myself. Like, I don't want to be tooting my own horn.
What you feel as if you thought of that was impossible, but it turned out really good?
I think what was impossible, or like seems impossible now, is the fact that I was able to make 2 seasons of a show independently. So I created an entire franchise. Midsummer Chaos has 2 seasons. And I think being able to write, direct, and produce just an entire show independently is, I think, an accomplishment. And I know that sounds really pompous, and मैं फालतू में अपने आप को कह रहा हूँ कि हाँ मैंने किया है, but like,
you know, for someone who has done it single-handedly is actually,
because it's really tough. You know, I don't think
tough.
people realize it. I think people think I'm really privileged. I think people think a lot of things about me, but it's tough. It's really tough to get out there, and especially with the kind of content that I wanted to create. It's experimental. You know, I wanted to talk about a young story जो कि television और film में हमें ज़्यादातर नज़र नहीं आती. You know, teenagers की कहानी, a coming of age story. And so I didn't really have sponsors also. So, you know, जो मेरी अपनी savings थी from when I was writing as a journalist are the savings that I've put into making the show, you know. So I've used a lot of my own money to make it. And so I think that is an accomplishment that I'm proud of.
You just launched season 2 and 3 episodes of it.
Yes, so the first 3 episodes of the second season of Midsummer are out. The second half of the show, which is episodes 4, 5 and 6 are going to hopefully come out in January. We took a bit of a break in the middle of release because there were a lot of production issues. There were a lot of issues with the editing. Post-production is a nightmare, especially when you're trying to pull in favors, truth be told. And so I think I needed to hold release for a bit, but it's coming out soon.
All right, perfect. There were a lot of question marks regarding to the
Yes, the
season.
second half of the second season of Midsummer is coming out very, very soon.
All right. Your debut film, Sikka. I wanted to talk about that. It starred Zara Abid, and the voiceover was done by Sabah Qamar.
Yes.
So, what was the inspiration? I mean, the story goes on. There are 2 different lives, 2 different aspects. What was the basis behind it? How did you write it? What was the thought behind it?
Do you know this, like when you're a teenager, you have a lot of this angst और आपको लगता है कि आपको ही सब कुछ पता है. You know what I mean? When you think that you figured it out and you're newly introduced to emotions that are grim and you're realizing that the world is extremely cruel. And I think that is the point that I wrote Sikka at. It was just me trying to talk about what I was seeing around me, how women are treated in society, regardless of what social strata they come from. So why I had Zara Abid play 2 characters. एक वो शहर की लड़की है, एक थोड़ा, वो
middle class or
lower middle class.
Middle
So
class,
why I tried showing 2 different social stratas is because I wanted to show कि regardless of where you come from, आपकी ज़िंदगी मुश्किल होगी if you're born a woman, And that's an experience I can never know as a man. I feel like it was just a story that at the time in my life I really wanted to tell, and I discussed it with Sabah, who was very kind to have done the voiceover. And interestingly enough, I had first offered Sikka to Iman Suleiman, and I really wanted her to do it. But वो उस time पे BNU का thesis दे रही थी, which is where I'm at also now. And so she couldn't come to Islamabad for the shoot, which is where I was shooting at the time. And Zara is someone I didn't know. So I randomly again messaged her on Facebook and I said, this is a short film that I want to pitch to you. And we hopped on a phone call. She liked the idea and she decided to do it, So she flew in herself. She got her own wardrobe. She booked her own hotel room. Wasn't paid for the project because I was 16 when I was making it. And I just think that looking back, I just think Sikka ke liye all the stars aligned. It was a story that I felt extremely passionate about and was very grateful to have a team that believed in me, and didn't think of me as just another kid trying something. Like I had a lot of faith that, Sabah and Zara and my cinematographer and my assistant director instilled in me. So it was a small team, but they all believed in what we were doing and what I was doing.
It.
Yes, I wrote it.
It was actually beautifully directed.
Thank you so much.
At a very young age of 16. It was really remarkable work.
Sikka is probably always going to be one of my most special projects to have worked on, especially after Zara's very tragic demise in the PIA plane crash. So it's a very special project.
How was your experience? So there were 2 sides, One was shot. Where was it shot? In the hall.
So the lower middle class bazaar setup was actually Lal Kurti in Rawalpindi, which is a bazaar that dates back partition, hundreds of years old. I think it's absolutely, it has a lot of character. I think it's a beautiful bazaar. I used to go there a lot growing up, so I knew that I had to shoot there. So we shot that there, and the other part of the story is shot in Islamabad. So it was shot in F6, F7. Just थोड़े elitist area समझे जाते हैं इस्लामाबाद के.
So दोनों के shoot का थोड़ा सा ऐसे थोड़े से कुछ I believe लाल कुर्ती में ज़्यादा obstacles आए होंगे shooting it than shooting in F6, right?
You're very right. Usually ऐसा होता है. And I can say that because Midsummer season 2 के time पे we were shooting an episode in Androon Lahore and it was a nightmare. So yes, लाल कुर्ती में थोड़ा सा मुश्किल था, but I don't know what it was about Sikka that everything just aligned. Like all the stars were aligning. तो हमें इतनी कोई मुश्किल पेश नहीं आई. There was this house that was built in 1920s लाल कुर्ती की गलियों के अंदर, और हमने literally shoot से कोई हफ्ता पहले मैं और मेरी assistant director ओमामा, shout out to you, love you, हम लोग लाल कुर्ती में उस घर के बाहर गए. हमने कहा बड़ा खूबसूरत घर है, हमने घंटी बजाई और हमने कहा कि हम एक हफ्ते में आके वी वांट टू शूट अ शॉर्ट फिल्म हियर, एंड दे वर वेरी काइंड, दे लेट अस, यू नो, जो जिनका घर था. एंड देन वी शॉट एट अ ढाबा हु ऑल्सो लेट अस शूट देयर. वी शॉट इन फ्रंट ऑफ अ सब्जी वाली रेडी, दे लेट अस शूट देयर. रिक्शा ढूंढने में थोड़ा मुश्किल हुआ था. 4-5 रिक्शा वालों ने कहा था हम नहीं इस फिल्म में आना चाहते, तो देन वी इवेंचुअली हैड टू गेट अ रिक्शा वाला टू फीचर इन द फिल्म. But that was probably the only like trouble that we had to face. कुछ 10-15 मिनट लगे होंगे रिक्शा वाला ढूंढने में. बाकी everything was mashallah, it went by smoothly. It was alhamdulillah, it was a great experience working on that film.
And एक और मेरा थोड़ा सा सवाल था when I saw the film. It was you showed two sides of love. You know, so एक तरफ it was so दो characters हैं. एक तरफ she is married, she has a kid, but then maybe she has something missing in the relationship that I just wanted to, there was a question in my mind that what is it about love that you want to project through the film?
I think what I want to project about, so when I view Sikka or how I wrote Sikka is that it's a journey of these two women in particular, you know. So love was a very secondary sort of narrative that came in. I think for them it was also just getting through the day, making it to work, going out, liberation, freedom. Those are the themes that I was mainly focusing on. But like you pointed out, one of the characters is married, the other has a secret waiter boyfriend at the dhaba जिससे वो मिलने जाती है. So I think how I view love, or what I'm trying to project through the film, is just that everybody is going to have different experiences. And it also always comes down to what you really want and what you're looking for, and who you connect with. There's a woman that is unable to find that understanding and that love and warmth in her husband, and the other is able to find it with someone that she might never be able to marry, जो कि एक waiter है ढाबा पे, you know. So the contradiction of life is such that you might meet people that, you know, you feel that connection with and never end up with, or you end up with people that you know,
who
will
you
not understand you.
First spell के सब कुछ वही है, and then eventually they turn out to be something else.
It's like Sikka on a whole is just a mirror to society कि ये हो रहा है, you know. शादीशुदा लोग ना खुश हैं, या फिर जिनकी शादी हो रही है वो मर्जी से कर पा रहे हैं, you know, like नहीं कर पा रहे या कर रहे हैं,
जो करना चाह रहे हैं उनको करने नहीं दी जा रही, और जो कर चुके हैं
इस तरह का कुछ
उनको उससे निकलने नहीं दिया जा रहा. Alright. So Sarym, there's this, now that we're talking about relationship and marriage, how do you think is the film industry or the showbiz is shaping the expectations of young women and men in regards to relationship and marriage? You know, you see a drama or a movie and you just instantly fell in love with the characters and how they show the affection and love and the love story in the dramas. So do you think that has to, that is playing a role in shaping the expectations of our youth?
I think in general also, like, art imitates life more than life imitates art. So what we consume basically shapes our opinions, our thoughts, and how we view other people, how we base our interactions is entirely based on what on the kind of media we're consuming, you know. And I'm sure that's very true. That is very true of marriage as well. कि जिस तरह की हम शादियाँ ऑन स्क्रीन देखते हैं वही हम असल में भी फिर एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे होते हैं. और बिकॉज प्रोड्यूसर्स थिंक कि टीवी रेटिंग्स उसी की हैं तो थप्पड़ लगाना ज़रूरी है, और एक टॉक्सिक मर्द, स्टेरियोटिपिकल मर्द दिखाना ज़रूरी है, और एक बेचारी औरत दिखाना टीवी पे ज़रूरी है. Which is why I think it's really important for young filmmakers and young storytellers to start telling stories about marriage and love and just relationships in a more refined, nuanced way. कि अगर मसाइल हैं भी या अगर कोई aggressive है भी आपका शौहर या बीवी या जो भी, तो try and tell that in a more evolved way, justify what your characters are doing. I think television industry की scripts में वो lack करता है, वो substance. But yeah, it is really important, and I would honestly love to attempt at telling like a marriage story. You know, there's a film called Marriage Story also that I really like. But yeah, like it's like I think artists are very responsible for what they're putting
I think
out.
now the trend has been, changing a bit, that I see dramas or, stories about relationships and the toxicity and everything. But then, they also show the feminine side to stand up for themselves.
Yeah, but that's rare. You know,
Yeah,
ये बहुत
that's
कम ड्रामों में होता
exactly.
है. अगर साल में 100 ड्रामे बन रहे हैं तो maybe 2 would have like empowered, strong female characters, and that's not enough. You know.
और अगर वो हो भी रहा है तो उस पे इतने क्वेश्चन मार्क्स आते हैं then कि आपको समझ नहीं आती कि where you're heading with this.
So I feel like it'll take time for us to start telling more progressive stories, but we're definitely headed in the right direction. I feel like there are filmmakers like Sarmad Khusat or Saim Sadek or Asim Abbasi, and hopefully with the work that I want to be able to do, as I continue, would try and tell those stories.
All right, so Sarym, one last question is, do you think that matrimonial apps were missing in Pakistan, and now that they're here, such as Dil Ka Rishta, it is going to make an impact or a change?
I hope so. I hope so, because everyone should have the right to choose who they get married to. And I think everyone also should have the right to have that interaction themselves. कि खुद आप मिलो, किसी से बात करो. तो I think it's a lovely initiative. I feel like in a very conservative society where हमें ये सिखाया जाता है कि शादी करना सिर्फ like आप 2 individuals के बीच में नहीं होता, 2 families के बीच में होता है, and a lot of like outdated sort of approaches to marriage. I think it's important कि अब हमारे पास इस तरह के avenues हैं where we can, go out and seek that kind of equation yourself and see if it works out for you. So yeah, like I think what you guys are doing is great.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Sarym,
so much for
your
having
time.
me.
Thank you. इसी के साथ हम आज के एपिसोड को रैप अप करते हैं. I'll see you in the next episode with a new guest. I hope you enjoyed it. तब तक के लिए take care. Allah Hafiz.